How to Talk in English. Alex once felt trapped, a silent observer in a world buzzing with English. He yearned to connect, to share his thoughts, but words always faltered. The dream of fluent conversation seemed distant, an insurmountable peak. His native language was a comfortable home, yet he craved the freedom that English promised. This constant yearning fueled a quiet desperation within his soul. Every day, he watched videos, scrolled through international news, and felt a pang of regret. So many opportunities to learn, to grow, slipped through his fingers because of language barriers. He imagined vibrant discussions, seamless travel, and global friendships. The desire wasn't just about utility, it was about truly participating, about unlocking a larger, more interconnected world for himself. The sheer volume of vocabulary, the intricate grammar rules, the perplexing pronunciation, it all conspired to overwhelm him. Where does one even begin this monumental task? He'd tried before, sporadic attempts that quickly fizzled out, leaving him feeling more defeated than before. This time, however, something felt different, a deeper resolve had begun to form within. Then, a simple yet profound idea struck him, a whisper from an old book: start small, start consistent. This wasn't about cramming, it was about building a habit, a daily ritual. He realized that grand declarations often failed, but tiny, manageable steps could lead to remarkable progress over time. This new perspective offered a glimmer of hope. His first commitment was deceptively simple: talk in English just 1 page per day. This meant choosing a book, any book, and reading a single page, front to back, every single evening before bed. No pressure for perfection, no dictionary required initially. Just exposure, consistent, gentle exposure to the language, letting it seep into his consciousness. The first page was a blur of unfamiliar words. He skimmed, he stumbled, he felt a wave of frustration. Yet, he completed it. The next day, he did another. Slowly, gradually, patterns emerged. He didn't understand everything, not even close, but the rhythm of English prose began to settle into his mind. It was a humble, yet crucial, beginning. Why reading is important, he soon discovered. It wasn't just about vocabulary, it was about seeing grammar in action, absorbing sentence structures naturally. Reading built an intuitive understanding, a sense of what sounded right, even if he couldn't articulate the rule. It provided a steady, silent foundation for all his future speaking endeavors. Each page, a tiny brick laid in the vast wall of his English knowledge. Without conscious effort, new words became familiar, and complex phrases started to make sense. He wasn't memorizing lists, he was encountering words in context, making them stick. This daily ritual quietly expanded his linguistic landscape, preparing him for the next big step. Reading was a powerful start, but Alex knew true fluency demanded more. He needed to activate the language, move it from passive understanding to active production. It wasn't enough to just recognize words, he needed to use them, to manipulate them, to make them his own. The real challenge, and the real growth, lay in speaking. His initial attempts at speaking were solitary. He'd narrate his morning routine to himself in a hushed voice, describing actions, objects, and feelings. I wake up. I brush my teeth. The water is cold. These small, private conversations felt awkward, yet they were vital practice for his tongue and brain, warming up for real interactions. The sounds felt foreign in his mouth, the rhythm clunky. He often mispronounced words, fumbled for grammar, and paused awkwardly. It felt like learning to walk again, each step an unstable wobble. But he persisted, understanding that discomfort was a sign of growth, a necessary phase before true confidence could blossom. He learned the principle: start step by step talking. No grand speeches, no complex debates. Just small, manageable chunks of conversation. It was like building a house brick by brick, not trying to erect the entire structure at once. This methodical approach reduced the overwhelming feeling he often experienced. His strategy was simple: master basic conversational English. He focused on common phrases, greetings, introductions, and asking simple questions. How are you? My name is Alex. Where is the library? These simple exchanges formed the bedrock of his verbal communication, building confidence one small success at a time. He practiced these short phrases relentlessly. He would stand in front of a mirror, delivering his lines, trying to perfect his intonation and confidence. The repetition solidified the patterns in his mind, making them more accessible under pressure. He focused on clarity, even if his vocabulary was still limited at this early stage. He even started recording his voice on his phone. Listening back was often cringe-worthy, highlighting every mispronunciation and awkward pause. Yet, it was an invaluable tool. It allowed him to identify specific areas for improvement, like a coach reviewing a player's performance. He slowly started noticing progress in his recordings. The biggest hurdle, Alex discovered, wasn't grammar or vocabulary, it was the crippling fear of making mistakes. The thought of stumbling, of sounding foolish, paralyzed him. He imagined judgmental stares, polite snickers, and silent condemnations. This fear was a massive internal barrier, preventing him from practicing freely. He gradually started to challenge this fear. He observed native speakers making minor errors themselves, shrugging them off. He read stories of successful language learners who spoke imperfectly but communicated effectively. The realization dawned: communication was the goal, not flawless perfection. This shifted his entire mindset profoundly. Why I always make mistakes, he pondered, was simply part of the learning process. Mistakes weren't failures, they were feedback. Each misstep was a sign that he was trying, that he was pushing his boundaries. Embracing this perspective freed him from the shackles of self-criticism, allowing him to be more experimental. Instead of dwelling on errors, he began to analyze them. Was it a grammar rule he didn't grasp? A word he misused? He treated each mistake as a mini-lesson, noting it down for later review. This active learning approach transformed setbacks into stepping stones, accelerating his progress significantly and boosting his resilience. Armed with newfound courage, Alex made a bold decision: how to talk with anyone. He knew he couldn't achieve fluency in isolation. He needed real-world interaction, the unpredictability of live conversation. This was the terrifying, yet exhilarating, next frontier in his English learning journey, pushing him beyond his comfort zone. His first brave step was at a coffee shop. "Can I have a small latte, please?" he stammered, his heart racing. The barista, with a kind smile, responded clearly. It was a simple exchange, yet the triumph was immense. He had spoken, been understood, and successfully completed a transaction entirely in English. That tiny victory ignited a spark. Being understood, even for something as mundane as a coffee order, felt like a monumental achievement. It proved that his efforts were not in vain, that the building blocks were indeed forming a functional structure. This positive reinforcement propelled him forward with renewed enthusiasm and courage. He then sought out more structured opportunities. Online language exchange platforms became his new hunting ground. He browsed profiles, looking for partners willing to converse patiently, ideally those learning his native language too, creating a reciprocal learning environment that fostered mutual understanding and progress. He joined an English conversation group on a video call platform. The idea of speaking with multiple strangers simultaneously was daunting. His palms would sweat, and his throat would tighten before each session. Yet, the desire to improve outweighed the anxiety, pushing him to click the join button every single time. His first video call was a blur of nervous laughter and awkward silences. He struggled to follow the rapid-fire conversation, often missing nuances. But he persevered, reminding himself it was okay to be imperfect. He focused on understanding keywords, nodding, and offering brief, simple responses when prompted, slowly gaining confidence. He found a patient conversation partner, a university student from Canada. Their weekly chats became a safe space for him to experiment, to make mistakes without judgment. She corrected him gently, explained cultural idioms, and encouraged him constantly. This consistent, supportive interaction proved invaluable to his growth. She taught him valuable talking tips. One crucial piece of advice was to ask open-ended questions, encouraging longer responses from his interlocutor. This kept the conversation flowing naturally, rather than resorting to simple yes/no answers, making the dialogue more engaging and providing more speaking practice for both. Another key tip was active listening. It wasn't just about waiting for his turn to speak, it was about truly absorbing what the other person was saying. This helped him formulate relevant responses and understand context, preventing awkward misunderstandings and demonstrating genuine engagement in the conversation itself. He learned to ask follow-up questions. Instead of just answering, "Yes, I agree," he'd ask, "Why do you think that?" or "Could you elaborate?" This technique deepened the conversation, allowed him to practice more complex sentence structures, and showed his partner he was truly engaged and interested in their perspective. Paraphrasing was another powerful tool she introduced. Repeating what he thought he heard in his own words confirmed understanding and allowed his partner to correct him if he misinterpreted something. "So, if I understand correctly, you're saying..." This technique ensured clarity and reduced miscommunication effectively. He started expanding his answers. Instead of a simple, "I'm good," he'd add, "I'm good, just finished work, feeling a bit tired but happy." This naturally increased his speaking time and forced him to use more vocabulary and varied sentence structures, moving beyond just basic, rote responses every single time. As his confidence grew, he moved from structured practice to more spontaneous conversations. He started engaging with English-speaking tourists in his city, striking up conversations in parks, or asking for directions just to practice. Each interaction became less of a planned exercise and more of a natural exchange. The ultimate frontier was learning how to think and speak in English directly, without the intermediate step of translation from his native language. This was the holy grail of fluency, a seamless connection between thought and expression, allowing for effortless communication and deeper understanding of the nuances. His process began with consciously narrating his thoughts in English. Instead of thinking, "I'm hungry," he forced his brain to form, "I am hungry." It felt clunky at first, like wading through thick mud, but with persistence, the mental pathways began to clear, making direct thought easier. He started with simple internal monologues about his day. "Today I will go to the market. I need to buy apples and bread." He would mentally rehearse scenarios, conversations he anticipated having. This constant internal practice was a powerful accelerator for his fluency, building confidence silently. While walking, he would describe everything he saw in English. "The sky is blue. There are many tall buildings. A dog is running in the park." This constant internal narration, turning his surroundings into an English vocabulary lesson, greatly expanded his descriptive abilities and quickened his recall. Before any important conversation, he would visualize it. He'd imagine the possible questions, his potential answers, and even different ways to phrase things. This mental rehearsal reduced anxiety and made him feel more prepared, leading to smoother, more confident delivery when the actual conversation occurred. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the internal translation faded. He began to process thoughts directly in English, forming sentences without conscious effort to convert them. It was a profound shift, a liberation that allowed him to express himself more naturally and rapidly, truly thinking and speaking in unison. The question, "Why I always make mistakes," transformed into, "How can I learn from this mistake?" He understood that perfection was an illusion, and progress was the true measure of success. He embraced the idea that errors were not signs of failure but rather essential data points for refinement and learning. He kept a mistake journal. Each time he stumbled on a grammatical point or misused a word, he'd jot it down, along with the correct usage. Later, he'd review these entries, consciously working to integrate the corrections into his active language, turning weaknesses into areas of strength and growth. He regularly reviewed new vocabulary and phrases, not just reading them, but actively trying to use them in his daily internal monologue and external conversations. Spaced repetition techniques helped solidify these new learnings, ensuring they moved from short-term memory into his long-term linguistic repertoire effectively. He learned that consistency trumped intensity. Even on days when he felt tired or unmotivated, he would still read his one page, or attempt a brief self-narration. These small, consistent efforts accumulated, forming an unbreakable chain of progress, proving that steady drops carve canyons over time. The improvement wasn't a sudden leap, it was a gradual, almost imperceptible ascent. One day, he found himself effortlessly participating in a complex discussion, articulating nuanced opinions without hesitation. He realized his fluency had evolved organically, a testament to his persistent, disciplined efforts over months. With every successful interaction, his confidence soared. The fear of speaking diminished, replaced by a quiet assurance. He no longer dreaded conversations, he actively sought them out, eager to test his growing abilities and connect with people from diverse backgrounds, embracing the learning journey fully. The moment of breakthrough arrived subtly. He wasn't thinking about grammar rules or word choice anymore. He was simply thinking a thought, and the English words flowed out, unbidden, naturally. This seamless connection, this effortless expression, was the realization of his long-held dream, a true triumph. His advice for anyone beginning their English journey was simple: embrace the discomfort. It's a sign of growth. Don't be afraid to sound foolish, every expert was once a beginner. Consistency and courage are your most powerful allies, guiding you through the inevitable challenges on your path. He emphasized the importance of self-compassion. There would be days of frustration, days when progress felt non-existent. But instead of giving up, he learned to be kind to himself, to acknowledge the effort, and to remind himself that every small step forward was still progress, no matter how tiny it seemed. The joy of being able to express complex ideas, to crack jokes, to share personal stories in English, was immense. It wasn't just about exchanging information, it was about truly connecting on a deeper, more human level, transcending linguistic boundaries and fostering genuine understanding between individuals. English became a bridge, connecting him to people, cultures, and information he previously couldn't access. He made friends from different continents, discussed global issues, and understood movies without subtitles. His world expanded exponentially, thanks to his unwavering commitment to learning the language. Traveling became a completely different experience. He navigated foreign cities with ease, chatted with locals, and immersed himself in new cultures without feeling lost or isolated. The ability to communicate transformed his travels from mere sightseeing into profound, enriching cultural exchanges and interactions. He could now consume English media effortlessly. Books, documentaries, podcasts, all became accessible, opening up new realms of knowledge and entertainment. He was no longer limited by translated versions, he could experience content in its original form, appreciating its full richness and nuance. Looking back, Alex felt an immense sense of accomplishment. The journey had been arduous, filled with moments of doubt and frustration, but the reward was immeasurable. He had not only learned a language, he had transformed himself, proving his own resilience and dedication to personal growth. His story became an inspiration to others struggling with English. He shared his methods, his triumphs, and his setbacks, offering practical advice and unwavering encouragement. He showed them that fluency wasn't about innate talent, but about consistent effort and a willingness to step outside one's comfort zone. He learned that fluency wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it was about confidence, about resilience, and about embracing the entire messy, beautiful process. It was about finding joy in the small victories and learning from every stumble, ultimately becoming a more adaptable and communicative individual. So, if you're struggling, remember Alex's journey. Start small, be consistent, embrace your mistakes, and talk with anyone you can. Reading is vital, thinking in English is powerful. Your fluency journey begins now, one page, one conversation, one mistake, one step at a time. You can absolutely do it.